We love keeping it open on all ends to where if you have something to share, we want to encourage that. And when we have videos muted, we ask if you want to share, you turn your video on. And that really helps to make sure we're not talking over one another, because if I see Tana's videos on or my videos on, I know I'm ready to share. So that helps kind of with making sure we're taking turns, or kind of have it as your raise your hand, if you will. So Tana, if you want to go to the next slide. All right, so if you are here, you have signed up for the I Love Google Forms, and here's why with Tana. My name is Chelsea Hurst. I work for YKSD out of the district office in Fairbanks, and I'm one of the leaders here at GEG Alaska. Today, we are going to have Tana Martin present for us about Google Forms. Tana was a classroom teacher, and then she moved to be a media specialist or a librarian. To know Tana really is to love Tana because of her just enthusiasm and positivity and all of the energy she has. If you guys know her for Makerspace as well as for Google, she has a lot of really great things to share with us today. So we are going to get started so you guys won't miss out on that. And then if you have any questions throughout, please feel free either to unmute your microphone and your video and join with us that way, or we'll be chatting throughout the comments or the chat box as well. So we did just have a few people join us. So just one last reminder, as you are joining, please mute your video and your audio just to help with connectivity. And then if you have something to say or want to share or ask questions, we definitely encourage that. You can unmute your mic and video at that time. So Tana, are you ready? All right.
I am. As Chelsea said, it's so funny because I came from Georgia. This will be my 4th year at Tana Middle School in Fairbanks, and I had always been called a media specialist before that. So it was really weird to be called librarian, because truly, as librarians go, I'm not always the best librarian. In Fairbanks, we have a lot of really good secondary and lower elementary librarians, but especially the secondary librarians, we have very different focuses and strengths. And mine is definitely more in the technology when it comes to middle school, rather than the books. I worked really hard this summer and read a lot, but I love technology. I actually spent 100 hours on Google Suite. It was way back about 5 years ago when I was earning a degree for instructional coaching. And so I spent over 100 hours. Well, I'm sure it was over 100, but 100 hours barely scratches the surface of everything there is to know about Google. And so Google Forms is a tiny little blip in the giant Google map, which is why I was so excited to be part of the GEG group. So as a librarian or media specialist, I feel my job, although as Chelsea said, I have been in the classroom. It was 2nd grade. I taught 3 years. My expertise is not the classroom. I'm married to a classroom teacher, and I tell him my job, I believe, in any the superintendent, a kid, the teacher, whoever, my job is to know the tools and to help you learn in your school and the district. However, I can use technology. Part of what that's the technology part of my job, beyond the books, beyond the media specialist part of my job. I truly believe that's I focus on. So no, that's kind of how I look at it. I'm not, I don't know if there are any normal librarians. No, you know, we all have different strengths, but that's how I think of it. So know that this is a tiny little blip in the giant map of Google, and even a tiny little blip in the giant map of Google Forms. So this is definitely not comprehensive and definitely a overview. Also, disclaimer, this is the first time I've ever presented using Google Forms, using Google Meet. And so, you know, let's dive right in and jump feet first, because I've never done it. And, you know, why not do it with almost 40 people watching you? You know, why not? So what can go wrong? And it gets recorded. So anyway, no, it'll be great. And I've got another computer over here. That's why every once in a while I'm looking. I've got another computer over here. I'm trying to keep my eyes on the chat, but anybody who knows me knows I have plenty to say. and I'll get too distracted if I'm looking over there. So at the very end, I do have a spot where I'll make sure that I check the chat. Chelsea and some other leaders will be keeping an eye on it and keep me straight at the end. I did the run through for my husband. Like I said, he is he'll be a second grade teacher next year. I did the run through for him this morning. And of course, anybody who knows me knows I have, like I said, lots to say. So I'm going to do my very best to keep it within as tight as I can to the hour. And then so at the end, the main reason we wanted you to have the slides is so that you can use them however you see fit. There are different parts that I've copied and pasted from other places. And as a good librarian and any educator should, I've given credit where credit is due and either provided the link or said free. If I start running out of time and at the end them yourself, I try to put as much as I could. All right, as long as I see, it looks like. All right, so the time on is talking about all the different elements of a Google form and questions and when you turn Google Forms on, what does it actually look like and what are the possibilities? Because like I said, my goal is to teach you the tool so that you can come up with, oh, that's a great tool to solve this problem. I absolutely do not believe that technology should ever be used just for technology's sake. You shouldn't have a tool and go, oh, this is a great tool, let me use it. No, I truly believe you have a tool belt, you have all your tools, and you figure out how those tools either help your kids learn better or solve problems that you have in your classroom. So I want to teach you the tool, and I'm going to overview forms. We're going to have a really quick look at the responses and how you interpret responses. That's a huge data piece. That's not my strength, but I'm going to show you a glimpse. If data is your thing, there's so much there. And like I said, probably the thing I'll run out of time with the most is Google Forms, how to use them specifically, either instructionally, which I see as in your classroom, or professionally, because maybe all of you are not teachers, and since it's being recorded, maybe you're a principal, maybe you're a counselor. Google Forms is for everybody. It is absolutely not for the classroom. So I want to make sure that just because you're not a classroom teacher, you don't think Google Forms is not for you, because I'm a librarian and I use it all the time and I love it, which is why I'm doing this session. So, and Bitmojis, loved it. Bitmojis, didn't know what TIL stood for until I saw this Bitmoji. Today I learned, and I thought it was a really cool one. So the top reasons I absolutely love Google Forms: there are an amazing amount of question types, 11. I can't imagine there being many questions that you want to ask that they don't have a question type for, and we'll go over those. As you are, in great Google form, as you're filling out your Google form, it is very intuitive and will often autofill for you if you want it to. So it's smart. We all know Google's smart. The graphs that are in the responses are instantly made. You don't have to have an extension. You don't have to have another tool. The data is entered, and then you click over responses, and bam, there it is. And in those responses, you can see your data and your response information in so many different ways. We'll talk about that, but it's crazy. It's crazy amazing. You can also have a form and transfer information directly into your sheet. So as you have people fill out forms, you can watch the sheet and it automatically goes blip, blip, blip as information goes from the form into the sheet. Crazy, crazy cool. So, just like you can collaborate in a doc and it's all live, information from a form goes directly into the sheet, and it's crazy. And you can share your form in 5 different ways. You can email it, you can put it in a URL, you can embed it on a website, you can share it on Facebook, you can share it on Twitter. It's very simple, all those ways, no extra steps. So we are going to go in and look at a sample form that I've created. Depends on what kind of way you like to learn. Do you want to look at the sample form yourself and get in there and mess with it? So I've got it. If you click down here, it will take you to the user view of the Google form that we're going to talk about. So there are 2 ways to look at a form. I call them, I don't know what the official term is, I call them the user view, which is what your student sees. and the creator view, which is what you see when you create, because they look different depending on the question. So right now, if you don't already have the bit.ly, if you'd like to, feel free to come back later and mess with it and enter data, but also feel free to follow along with me if that's your learning style. So I'm going to get out of the presentation. Let's first look at, if you were trying, I watched Allison Curry's video, upload her video about Google Forms, which is on the GEG YouTube site, about 5 times in this presentation because it was so amazing. But she calls it, I'm going to copy her, she calls it the birthing of a baby form. So when you go to your waffle and you click a form, let's see what it actually looks like in its baby, infantile, brand new form. Just if you've never seen it, we're going to start at the very, very beginning because you need to know what it looks like. Here it is. Brand new, never been used. You click, this is what it's going to look like. It's always purple. I love purple. Purple's my favorite color, so it might be another reason I love Google Forms. A little trick that I like to remember is if you want to enter your title quickly and, you know, all the mysterious untitled documents and forms and sheets and all that stuff in people's drive, you can quickly take care of that. If you've typed your title here, you simply click up in this other location, which is your form name. So this is the title, but this is what it actually saves as. So it's a quick way to change both things at the same time. So we're going to quickly go through this baby form to see what the parts are, because as you go, I will tell you, I know I speak quickly. I have a lot to say. I'm so glad that it's getting recorded because maybe you need to go back and go, what in the world did she say? Holy cow, I know I'm speaking fast and I apologize, but if not, I can't get it all in. So I'm gonna go really fast and go through all the different parts of this baby form and we'll look at the sample form. So this is if you want to specifically save it in a folder and go on and save it in the right place and not just in the jumble of your drive, you can put it there. If it's important and you know that you're gonna be using it a lot, you can click on the star. Over here, there are some add-ons, and we're going to talk about add-ons in a little bit later. It's on one of my slides, some add-ons I recommend and some other places that you can look on at add-ons. This is how you customize the theme. So you can click on here, you can choose your own header. So that'd be a picture at the top. You can change the color of the whole thing. You can change the background. You can change the style. It's all in there. You know, Google it. It's going to let you be simple, but it's going to let you personalize. Preview is what you click on in order to look at what the person who's taking the survey or the quiz or however the user side, you click preview. So what we're looking at right now is the creator view. You as a creator are creating the form. If you want to see what the user's going to look at, you click on preview. That takes you to a live, that very moment form that you've created. So when you click on it, it opens it. Now let me say this clearly. When you open it, it opens in a new tab and it's static right then. So if you change something back in your user view, you need to close this, mark that. If you change something in your creator view where you're creating the form, you need to open a new user view because you've changed your original in the user view. Does that make sense? So make sure that you're not changing in your user view and not changing your preview view so that you don't see your changes. I'll show you a couple examples and you catch me, I think, but I want to make sure that that's very clear that you don't keep these two tabs open and frustrate yourself. Okay, so, all right, we were on preview. Here's your settings. So this cog has so much stuff in here that you can change as a whole. It's talking about your whole form. You can collect email addresses or not. It depends on how complicated it is. It depends on, are you using it professionally? Are you using it as an instructor for your classes? Totally up to you. Do you restrict it within your school district or not? Like when we're doing our GEG stuff and we share stuff, we can't do it within our district. So it's nice to have that distinguished. Limit to one response. That's pretty obvious. Do you want it more than one? answer, edit, can after the respondent, the person who's taken the quiz, can they edit their response or not? And then can they see the summary or charts of what other people have listed? Probably maybe not as applicable for quizzes, maybe preview, pre-tests, or I'm thinking more professionally as the principal asks you to fill out a survey and then they want you to see what other people put, but not until you've already taken it. So that's just an example of how you could use that. Presentation. So do you show as they're taking the, as they're going through the form, are you showing a progress bar? You know what I'm talking about when you take it and you're like, yeah, you're moving along. Do you shuffle the question order? So if it's a quiz, it's the whole entire quiz. Do you want all the questions to shuffle? And then do you want to show the link in order to respond to the quiz or to the survey or whatever? And then confirmation message, to me, one of my pet peeves is when people leave your confirmation message, your response has been recorded. To me, if you're sending out a survey and people are taking time to take your survey, be respectful and at least say, thank you for taking my survey, and then some greeting. But anyway, that's just a little pet peeve of mine. And then quizzes, again, here's my major plug for Allison Curry's auto-graded assignments video. Amazing. And she goes crazy into the deep pool of Google Form quizzes. So definitely check that out. All right, send. Send means you are, whatever form you've created, you're sending it to the person that you want to take it. And like I said earlier, there are 5 ways to do it. Here, if you're within your school district, you can automatically click the email address or not. So I personally do not like sending forms in an email in this form because it sends a separate email. And to me, the submission looks a little funky. I don't like it. So I never use this one. Do it a couple times, practice, send it to yourself, see what you like. I prefer the URL. If I'm testing or sending one to somebody, I try not to send that big giant one, and you can click and shorten it, copy it, and there you go. Or you can embed HTML. Quick use for that. You can do it in your class website. You could do it in anywhere where there is embedded. I assume, I'm not a Google Classroom expert. I'm trying to get there. I assume there's probably an embed feature within Google Classroom, but I know at least in Google Sites you can embed stuff. So there's your embed code, and it's just sitting right there, ready and easy to get to. And then you can share it on Facebook, or you can share it on Twitter. So lots of ways, very fast, easy way to send information, send your form for somebody to fill it out. Okay, anytime you see these pancakes, that's what I call the 3 dots. Anytime you see the pancakes, that always means there's more information, and be sure to check it out because there are more ways to tweak and change your information. The big and wonderful undo, you make a big giant mistake and you're like, oh, undo, Lord have mercy. I undo and edit all the time. So if that's important to you, definitely make sure that you know where that is. Make a copy. So you worked really hard and made a good quiz, and you just want to tweak it a little bit for another quiz. Yeah, make a copy. There's no sense in reinventing the wheel. Just like in Google Docs, when it says, when you have a doc and then you make a copy and it says copy of blah, 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 blah. Same thing. It'll show up in your drive, copy of, and you can change the title and use it for something else. Duplicate your work. Work smarter, not harder. Obviously, the trash. Pre-filled link, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what that is. Not important enough for this for me to spend time on it, but it could be something important. Print, there are just times when you need to print something. Maybe the student isn't good at technology. Maybe it's a student that isn't allowed to technology. We had people last year that abused their Chromebooks and had it taken away for a time. And so they weren't allowed to use technology. And if the teacher really needed them to take the quiz, they could just print this. And, you know, it's probably, the goal is to be paperless oftentimes and try to make your work easier. But there are times when you just need something to get printed. You can always add collaborators. You know, the wonderful thing about Google is everything can be collaborated and changed and edited. Google Forms is nothing different. Script editor, that's for the nerdy people that like going way down the nerdy path of editing your script. Add-ons, as I said, you know, they're in both places. And your preferences is just a place that if you want to change it as a whole for always collecting email addresses, making sure that you want to require every question. So as each question comes up, there's a little toggle that you can turn it on or off. Sometimes in a survey, you don't need teachers to answer or people to answer every single question. But in a quiz, you want them to answer every single question. Or sometimes it's an important survey and you want them to answer every single question. And so you want to make sure right here quickly that you can change it to every question. If you have 30 questions and you don't want to go turn it on, require, turn it on, require, turn it on, require, you can turn them all on and require them right here. Also, if you make it into a quiz, if you always have all 10 questions equal 10 points or all 20 questions equal 5 points, you can do this right here and not have to change it on every individual question. All right, so those are the very basics of the very baby form. So right here you can see the title. And I'm going to actually go over to my sample because you can see this menu right here has lots of things. And every time you open a new question, which you add a new question like that, you get every option of questions. So we're going to quickly go through all those questions, all 11 kinds of questions, so that you can see what it looks like. Now notice, I do want to make sure you see whenever you're editing a question, the blue bar over here shows that's the question that you're working on. And the information for that question shows up and the blue bar moves and your menu bar moves over here. Okay, so we're going to switch over to the sample that I have created. And you can see that I have added a header picture. You can see that I have, changed the font and kind of made it a little jazzier, add the description, the section. So a section is when you're going along in a quiz and you click next and it takes you to another page. That's called a section. So you can add sections or you can add a title. This is the title and you can add more titles in the page. So titles break up your page. As you go through the quiz, sections break it up and make it on different pages. So just know that terminology of your organization. Okay, so right here, that's a quick way to change the font. All right, so you can see it's Google, they're going to have 10 ways to do the same thing. All right, so these, always the pancakes, the 3 dots, no matter where you are, always mean a menu. So make sure in every question that you're in, as you get comfortable with the formatting in the different places, that you look and see what it is, because every question is going to have maybe a little bit different menu. Okay, so if you did a really good job and you like the way a section looks, you can duplicate it. You can move it, you can delete it. All right, so we're going to go to the first question. The first kind of a question is a short answer question. All that means is the expected answer is only a few words, not very long. You can add a picture. Lots of these, you can add a picture. You can add them or not. Depends on how fancy you want to make it. Depends on how much time you have. It's completely up to you. So this means duplicate the question. So if you like how you created your question, you want another one, just make another one and it adds it right below. Obviously the trash. Again, remember I said about requiring the question. Here's your toggle for requiring the question or not. Again, here are the pancakes. Now, response validation. I'm not a super expert on that. Again, Allison Curry mentions it in her quiz video, but response validation, I know at least for short answer, require how many they have to respond with. or quiz. So let's say you want to require that they characters for their long answer text, then you can put that on there and have a little message. Sorry, you need to tell me some more. So listen, Allison Curry, she talks about that, but that's what that means. It gives qualifiers and more specificity to what you expect out of that question. All right, again, I'm going to go through this little menu real fast. That's adding a question every time. This is if you want to import a question from somebody else or somewhere else. This is adding another title. Remember, section is the pages. Title is organization within the same page. This is adding an image, which you'll see in a minute, and adding a video in a minute. That's not adding your image or your video to your question. That is adding a picture or a video. Is how you add a section. Okay, so short answer means longer, multiple paragraphs. That's what it means. Here is a title. So this is just a divider within your quiz or within your survey that gives you you can add a description or just have a really big where you want to make it. Here's another kind, a multiple choice. So here's the first major tip for looking at it from a creation view to with the different kinds. I typed something and then I looked at what the user saw. And then I typed something and then I looked at what the user saw. So, okay. All right. I'll come back to that. Yeah, see, I can't get distracted. I'm going to get distracted. Okay, user view. You want to make sure you see what the question looks like for the user. So remember, you click the eye. That makes you see a live view of what your form looks like. Okay, so for the most part, what we looked at so far looks pretty similar. Now, here's our multiple choice. Multiple choice means you can only choose one. You can only choose one option. All right. The next one is a checkbox. Checkbox, you can check more than one more than one square. So let's say you click checkbox and you go, oh, no, I didn't mean I want a checkbox so that they can have more than one answer. I want it to be multiple choice. Simple. All you have to do, if you've picked, so here's my checkbox. See how it looks a little different? The other one in the user view, you can see them in there in a square, whereas here it's long and skinny. I'm visual. I just need to see what the user's going to see. So let's say you didn't like that once you saw, oh, checkbox. I don't want it to require me to, I don't want it to let me choose more than one box. There are two ways you can do it. You can either change it here to multiple choice, or you can scroll down to the bottom and pick the little pancakes. And, oh, I thought you could only choose one. Hang on. Maybe it was a different one. Oh, maybe it was the grid. Okay, I bet it was a grid. Never mind. So you only have one choice. You need to make your checkbox change back into a multiple choice so that they can only choose one answer. All right. Oh, and I did want to say you can shuffle your answers. Remember, in your settings, you can shuffle the order of the questions. You can also shuffle the order of the answer responses or the options that you have. So you can double, triple, sneaky them so that they can't be looking at each other's computers. So here is your picture. Here's the first example of a picture. It's not affiliated with a question. It's more for decoration. It's more for information. Just depends on what you're using your form for. All right. So here is the next kind of question. It is your drop-down menu. To me, this is another one of those where I like to see what it looks like because it looks a little different. So here's your picture. And then notice, here's the drop-down menu. It doesn't look anything like what you saw as a user. I mean, excuse me, your user view is nothing like your creator view. So here you are. There's your drop-down menu. You can only choose one. Okay. Then next is add files. So this is an upload. This is an upload version. And let's see what it looks like from a user view. As a user, excuse me, we saw the user creator. As a creator, you can adjust what kind of files, how many files, what are the size of the files. For example, if you wanted 8th grade graduation, you have to have pictures submitted for everybody to make into a presentation, and you need parents to submit pictures. Well, you know one mama is going to want to submit 8 pictures, and another mama is going to do 2. Well, if you only limit it, if really you only have room for 2, then say 2. You might get 1, you might get 2, but you're not going to get 8. So it's a nice way to limit and not over receive information. All right, here's another kind of question. It is called a linear scale. Now notice that the linear scale can start at 0 and it can also end at 10. So it's completely up to you. And you distinguish what the numbers mean. Do they mean good? Do they mean bad? You know, you give the range for what every question means. And don't forget, you should be checking your pancakes. You know, when you have time on your own, check those pancakes because there's more information in there. All right, here is another kind of question. It's called the multiple choice grid. And again, I think this is the one where you can limit it. Here it is. Here's the one where you can limit. Standard practice is that multiple choice, you can click whatever you want. But if it's part of your question or it's part of your survey that they can only choose one, then you can limit it. So let's look at it as a user, because to me, it does look a little different as a user than as a creator. So here, remember, I've not limited how many they can click. Truth is, they can click however many. All right. So there's that one. Again, here is, see, there's that Allison Curry video again. I'm telling you, if you are above, you know, if you're ready to really hit the ground running, it's worth your hour to watch that video. But again, this is a decoration. This is information. This is not specifically affiliated with a question within this square. All right, here's another kind. Let's look at it as a user. And this is the super clicky one. You can click lots, but let's look at it as a creator, the checkbox grid. And again, you can limit it to 1 response per column, or you can leave it open and use it for however you want. Okay, so as a creator, I want to make sure you see this distinction. Remember, sections make different pages. So right here, there's a way to have choose your own adventure type forms where I had a friend, and it's included in my instructional uses. I had a friend from North Pole High School, North Pole Middle School, a librarian there, and she used forms she would have it with her Sphero. The kids would drive the Sphero to station number 1. At station number 1, there was a clue, and then they typed that clue into their Google form, and she'd set it up so that if they typed the right clue, it would take them to the next one. If they typed this one, it would go to this one. So the different parts were like choose your own adventure. I've also included a good choose your own adventure more for story, but it's the same kind of premise in the presentation. But I want you to see and stretch beyond a plain linear form. I'm telling you, these forms, you start searching up ways to use them and your brain is going to hurt because you get so excited about, I can use them for all sorts of stuff. So know that this between pages, between sections, is a really important little clue that is kind of hidden to me. All right, so here's the next section. This is what you see as a creator, but let's look at what it looks like as a user. So I have not required any of these questions to be completed. So when I click next, oh, I guess I did make that one required up there earlier with y'all. Never mind. Okay, here we go. Now we go next. Okay, so you see, I required it. It wouldn't let me go to the next one until I'd done it. That was probably a good thing to do. Didn't even know it. So here's section 2. So as a creator, it's all on the same page for you, but as a user, it's 2 separate pages. If for some reason you need them to use a date, if for some reason you need them to enter a time. So here it is as a creator. Very simple. Okay. So I just wanted you to see that's really fast. But there's so much in there and you can get so deep in the weeds. I was trying to get weedy, but not super deep. And those 11 kind of questions, crazy good, crazy good. So next, let's look at responses. So we've talked about questions. Now, remember one of my other favorite things about Google Forms is how much information you get. So when you click this tab, responses, I only have 4. And if any of you have been taking the quiz along with me, click submit and let's just see what happens because you'll see more show up. We're in Alaska, got to have a mosquito. So it'll be interesting to see if some people have been working on it, what shows up, but it'll automatically change the number if somebody's shows up. You have 3 different ways to look at it. Summary. So it's all the quizzes together. You can look at the results by question, or you can look at the response by individual, which is really handy when it's quizzes. Again, Allison Curry talks about that. But also it's interesting whenever a principal or you submit survey data, or it's really interesting to have 3 different options and it's not in a just big jumble of information. So I'll scroll real fast and you can see they have really good charts within Google Forms. And if I needed this form to share with somebody or to use somewhere else, all I have to do is click copy chart. It's saved to my clipboard and I can paste it somewhere else. So it's super, super easy and user friendly. So you can see if I click my picture. So here's one of the pictures as I was taking them. I just uploaded pictures. And then there's one of my submissions, pulls it up, it's saved, ready to go. I think it's going to pull up. All right, we'll see. This is not important, so I might just bail. But anyway, you can see it's very fast and very easy way to see people's results. Okay, bailing on that. That's not that important. Here we go. All right. So lots and lots of cool data. Okay. So we're going to look at one other example of responses. This was a super, super, super simple way that I had kids sign in out of the library. All our kids were lanyards and name tags. And so they'd come in the library, click into this first thing, scan their name tag, select which teacher. So we have houses. So I arranged it by house and then ABC order. They click which house they type their S number, blah, 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 and then they would submit. And that's all they had to do. And notice this was very simple for the next person. If the person who submitted their number left this on the screen, the next person just had to click submit another response. Here we go. Click here, scan their name tag, choose their teacher, move on. So let's look at what data that is. And me as a librarian, it was really interesting to see. And I didn't do it all year. To be honest, we quit in March. So I probably, I don't know, maybe October, November, this is not a full year's worth, but it is good data to show me which teachers had students use the library the most. And it helped me in my data, apply it to your own circumstance, or, I'm trying to model how my data works in my brain. Why would a teacher use a library or why not? Okay, so here we go. This teacher was right down the hall. He used me all the time. He had some squirrely kids and he needed to use a library. Now, if he, in my opinion, was coming 50% of the time, I think we need to have a conversation about it, or I need to think about it. Are his kids taking slots in the library, and is it making other kids not be able to come in because the library is too full? In this case, it wasn't. So 20% was fine. But it's that kind of data that for me, I don't want to tell a teacher, I'm sorry, you're sending your kids too much, unless I have data to back it up. And this is a great way for me to use data to show what's going on. The truth is, it helped me see this teacher used me all the time. This teacher used me all the time. This teacher used me all the time. But then there's teacher right here, Mr. England. He's a PE teacher. Why wouldn't he use me? Because he doesn't need the library that much. He only sends kids when they're hurt. You know what I mean? So it's not, oh, I wonder why. It's good data. And I just wanted to make sure you saw that data can be used in lots of ways. All right. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. Oh, I committed a big sin. I just realized I did not show you that you can move questions around. Woo, that would not be good for me to not show you. Okay, so this little bar right here, you can click on it and move it down. You can move this, you can move it up, you can move it around. Any of these questions you can move. It's that little bar in the middle. That's how you move questions around. Okay, good. Glad I showed you that. Sorry. Okay, so I've shown you about a sample form. Here's the major disclaimer that Allison said in her video. Make sure, and this is a slide from her show, make sure you preview, not just look at it, but you take your own test. You can check for proofreading, you can check for mistakes, you can make sure, does this make sense at all for what I was trying to test or not? Take your own test. Take our word for it. Learn from somebody who's like, well, that's not what I meant it to do. Take your own test or ask somebody else to help you out. So make sure that you try it and use that preview. All right, responses. We talked about that. Oh, responses into sheets. See, that is why I made the slides. So we're going to take this information right here, and I am going to click Google the spreadsheet. So we're in our responses tab and we click, you know what, I don't think did I talk about that? Nope, sure didn't. We are going to click create a new spreadsheet. And here we go. The magic is happening. The little squirrel is working in the background, and here's your information. So ready to go. It timestamps it. It gives you all your information ready to go in a spreadsheet. Literally, this is all I'm going to tell you about this. I wanted to make sure you saw where that button is, because people who love spreadsheets, holy cow, their brain just goes, and if you know spreadsheets, you can do that, but we don't have time for that. But I wanted to make sure you knew where that little important button is for Google Sheets, and it's within that response menu. Okay, well, clearly this is working too hard, so I'm going to turn them off. Okay, so right here, important. Oh, and let's talk about this because I did forget this. All right, in this, remember the pancake. See, I didn't follow my own rule and I didn't follow the pancake. You can get email notifications for new responses. One of the ways I use Google is it emails me. I don't check that form all the time. I could go a month and want it to email me because I don't want it to get lost and that kid to not think that I'm not paying. And you can turn the responses off, turn them on, more there, but I'm not going to talk about that. There's where if it's a quiz and you want to stop kids from, turn it off, that's where you do that. All right, I know, 15 minutes. Here we go. Yep, listen fast. Okay, so we talked about how to send responses directly from forms to sheets. Oh, I did want to say at the bottom, when you adjust your form, you change your format, you move a question around, sometimes it changes what it looks like on the end. So it doesn't lose anything, it just looks a little different. So know that, let's say your question number 1 and question number 2 and you swapped them, it doesn't mean, from what I have found, that it switches it identically 1 and 2 in your sheet. So just know that. It's not a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of. All right. Here is the super fast. This is how we use Google Forms, and then I promise I'll get to the chat. Obvious, the first two were obvious. I said the third one, the spheros and the unlocking clues, a branching lesson. That's from Alice Keeler, you know, Alice Keeler rocks. Self-selected, self-paced review resources, which is super cool, of like a way for kids, especially with this remote learning, for them to review the information on their own, and you embed a bunch of stuff in videos. Google Forms in PE. This is an older one. I found it when like I said, when I was doing my grad school work. And PE teachers and elective teachers get left out a lot. And it was my mission to make sure I found ways for Google to apply to other elective teachers. And that was just one of the ways that Google Forms in PE was a really cool way. So if you are not a PE teacher, if you know a PE teacher, share it with them. Just share that link. It's a podcast. They can listen to it. It's older information, but it's still good. And speaking of old information, the last one, it's 2012. You know, it's like 8 years ago. It's old. You can laugh at how hilariously cheesy some of the graphics are, but it's got some good solid ideas in there. All right, full disclosure, I'm taking my level 1 certification test tomorrow. And so as I'm going through it this week, the level 1 practice, I found ideas and I'm like, yeah, why do I need to recreate the wheel when all I'm going to do, I'm a librarian, I'm full disclosure, I copied, I pasted, I did it, here it is. And there's more information down in the speaker notes. So, you know, I'm giving credit where credit's due. They were good ideas and there's no sense in not sharing them. They came from level 1. They're not out of my brain. And they continue on. I thought the science fair judging was a great idea because then they can have their thing in their hand. The judges can have it on their own phone. And I just thought that was cool. All right, here's that choose your own adventure video. It's an interesting way. It makes your brain go to the next level of sections and forms and qualifications, and it's cool. Allison Curry, you need to watch this. I'm serious. You're going to kick yourself if you watch it in 2 months and you're like, I wish I'd have known this now. Seriously, watch it. Professional uses. Okay, here is where I'm talking to the part of your brain or the people who are not teachers who need solutions in their regular life. When I don't know if your school takes lunch count. Long story short, when I was doing my grad school work in my 100 hours, the poor lunch lady, I made her life 5,000 times better. I literally started saving her 25 hours a week from tallying and doing lunch count. It was crazy. I also helped the secretary. I was very popular that year at school because I saved everybody time. I helped the secretary at the front desk. You know, when you fill out the paper that says, what's your favorite this, what's your emergency contact, what's your birth date? All she did was I helped her create a Google form. She sent it to email the list. Everybody filled it out. And then the next year, she resent the sheet to everybody who was still there, deleted out in the sheet. So they filled it out in the form, deleted it in the sheet. The people who left, the people who were new, she just sent the form link to and said, hey, fix your information, or they sent the sheet to and said, fix. The new people filled out the form. Super great. Principal observation. Oh, Wi-Fi map. So in March, when we went, 10 minutes. When we went remote learning, I, in Georgia, had worked on a Wi-Fi map. And so I applied it here to Fairbanks. The librarians in the district teamed up and helped call all the businesses to say, hey, do you want to be on a Wi-Fi map? So they filled out the form that said, this is their name, this is their hours, blah, 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 all the pertinent information. I used the sheet that it directly went into to put that information on a map. So that's one form, the form that the people filled out as they called. The other form I created, that's the individual businesses, is on the homepage for the map saying, hey, businesses, are you interested in being part of this map? So it's a little different question. That's that little copy thing, you know, where I created the wheel for all these people to fill out when they called. Yeah, well, you're going to ask the question a little differently if the business is filling out their own information. So I just copied and whoop, there we go. You saw my library class in and out. You can do it in your own class. I've heard of people using their own class in and out. People going to the bathroom all the time. You can use the data for that. Maybe you do it as a whole. Your whole team does it. I don't know. Book recommendations, student behavior log. Oh, this was a good one. When I was in Georgia, there was a little kid who, I mean, crazy off the charts behaviors. And he was in so many classes and it was so hard to keep data. So this little kid ended up walking around with his iPad. And remember I said the sections, and every day he had like 10 sections that he had to fill out, and he was diabetic. So when he got to the to lunch, or the code, one of his sections was, I'm sorry, I'm running out of time, and so I'm blah, 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 blah. One of the sections in the requirement of what had to be filled out every day was the code from the nurse that said, yes, he came and got his medicine, because if he didn't have his medicine, he was going to have a problem. And then the next one was the person who sat with him at lunch filled out what he ate for lunch. And then throughout that whole day, did he think he had a good day in music? Did he think he had a bad day in music? Or did it was a great way to monitor student behavior. The add-ons, I'm not going to get into it, but if you don't have some kind of notification and it's a form that sits somewhere on a website, you might as well not have it if you're not notifying yourself. These other ones are newer. I haven't used all of them, but I scanned through them and they all seem like pretty good applicable ones. All right, see, 7 minutes. Here we go. I am going to look. I'm going to start at the top. Or Chelsea, are there some major things that you see, or somebody, some leader that wants to help direct me toward questions?
It looks like most questions have been answered. The only one thing that I see that maybe hasn't is Laura asked if somebody could share their lunch count form with her. So if you have a lunch count form, that'd be awesome if you could drop it in the chat. So
okay,
we can use it.
I do have a lunch count form. Okay, let me put my email address, and let me think of how to find that. Like, I know it's in the depths of my emails. I can find the lunch count form. And the truth is, it was simple. It was the person's name, the teacher's name, drop down menu. And then the lunch people had to every day change. So I had to train the lunch lady, and then I had to train the teachers. So it was a job, but Lord have mercy, it was wonderful. How about, did you say Laura? I forgot what you said. What was the name you said?
Yeah, so it was Laura.
Okay, Laura, I'm going to put my email address in here. I don't want to spend other people's times talking about lunch count. But if somebody's interested further in lunch count, I can have the 10-minute conversation on what I did, because, and I think some of it is in the speaker's notes for how I did it, because I copied and pasted for my final project report on how I did it in case I didn't get to it, which I didn't.
And then Tana, the only other question that hasn't been answered, Tammy did a lot of research and tried to find the answer, but asked, do you know anything about being able to see source code to cheat on quizzes? So some students would be able to see the code to find out the right answers on a quiz while they're taking it.
Oh, Allison Curry in that video said that if you're in a district that has Google, I'm blanking on what it's called, some kind of Google monitoring, Google Chrome management system, that you can lock it out. And I think that's within the district, not necessarily within the test. Again, I'm going to say, watch that video because she talks about it. But I know that there is a way to, when the kid gets in the quiz, it locks everything else out. Yeah, but that's an Allison expertise, not mine.
All right, Tana, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. Just last minute, if anybody has any questions, feel free to either share on the mic or drop in the comments. We'll wait just a minute in case you have a question.
And thank you, Tammy. I so appreciate all your research.
Hi, this is Sharon in Tuxuquay in Alaska. I just learned Google Forms this summer because I stayed in the village. But my question is I'm trying to create a quiz for the students to answer me. So they don't necessarily will take the quiz. They'll come to me. I will have it. So I created it to where I put their name on it. So then the next form, they put their name, you know, I just keep doing that. But do I have to have anything like the email and all of that other responses or stuff? Because it's just me.
No.
So I just leave it blank.
Yeah, they're sitting next to you taking it.
They have the sheet. So it's a paper pencil test. But because of the coronavirus and things, they will be at somewhat of a distance from me. So I created a test. They'll have their sheet in front of them. They'll give me the answer and I will mark the answer.
Oh, I see. They have the paper, you have the computer.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, if you don't want to require email, you just take that email, click off. If you, and I will, is name. And if you want to sort it later in your sheet for
sorry, you broke up there. If I want to what?
Okay. I'm sorry. First and second question are first name and last name. So that when it's who it was. But yeah, you can sit there and fill it out for them. Absolutely. That's actually not a bad idea to get around that paper use.
Well, that and it gives me a track. I think it will give me a tracking. It will do the spreadsheet thing. And, you know, that I haven't tried yet. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Get in there and make one for you. Just play with it and then, you know, share it with yourself and open the link and then go through and click. Yeah. That absolutely is a good way to use forms.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Tana, while we still have people on, do we want to go through those last announcements?
Yep. Sounds good. Here. Yep. Go for it.
So just some more information about GEG Alaska, our Google group. If you guys have questions, like when Laura asked if somebody had a lunch count form to share, or Andrew asked a question about source code, if you have any of these questions when you're offline and not in a presentation, you can ask them to our Google group. So what it is just an asynchronous way for us to connect, ask questions, share resources, introduce ourselves, whatever that may be. So if you visit our website, and if you have this presentation, it's all hyperlinked. You can join our group and feel free at any time to ask any questions that you may have, or maybe you have a really awesome resource of something that went really great in your classroom that you want to share with everybody else. The Google group is a great place for that. So please, 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 after you leave the session today, join that group. There's a member introduction thread. Go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself. We'd really love to see you on there. And then Tana, next slide. I think I know what it is. Okay, yeah. So next week, we have another section next Tuesday, same time with Allison Curry. Tana mentioned her a lot because previously she did an awesome Google Forms, I think it was Google Forms presentation earlier in the summer. So she'll be presenting about Google Sites for student learning portfolios next week. So please join us again if you enjoyed this session. And then information's the same, and then you can sign up using that bit.ly link. We would love feedback, especially as we move into the school year. GEG Alaska is something that is going to continue. We'll be doing professional development throughout the school year. So we'd love to hear what you thought of this session, but also what type of events you'd like to see in the future. We want to make sure this is really relevant to what you guys want to learn about, especially since most of us are going back virtually at the start of the school year, and there's a lot of information to be learned. So if you have something specific you'd like to see, please fill out that survey and we will try to make sure we present stuff based on what you guys want to see. Then next slide. So we are going to have a party to celebrate this being an official group. We have been doing PD all summer, once a week, and we're part of the ASDN Recharge. Oh gosh, 3 hours, ASDN's 3 hours sessions that they're hosting right now. But we also plan to continue to present and host PD and talk in the Google group throughout the entirety of the school year and in the future. And we will officially launch and become a group in September. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be a large professional development opportunity and a fun way for us to connect. So just keep that date in your calendar. And then last, recharge, refocus, restart. Thank you, Tammy. And thank you, Laura, for posting that sign up link in the comments. I appreciate it. Also, this is your GEG Alaska leadership team. It's just some people from around the state that I have convinced to help me start this group. And as the school year begins, we will all become more busy with our own personal jobs. None of us get paid to do this. We just simply do it because we love Google and love sharing. If you're interested in a leadership opportunity, we would love the help, whether that be with presenting or helping run meetings or whatever we decide to take this group. Just email gegalaska@gmail.com. We would love to have you. And maybe you don't want to be a part of the leadership group, but you would love to present on a topic. Feel free to email us as well. And then lastly, just ways for you to connect with us. So there's a link to our website, the Google group that I've been talking about. You can email us or follow us on Twitter. And I believe that is the very last slide. Yeah, so thank you again for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Tana, thank you for presenting. That was great, lots of information. And I can't wait to go back and review this slideshow again now that it's kind of soaked in my brain to see what I've missed. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks for joining. Hey, Kyla, I see you commenting in the chat. Just want to introduce myself to another fellow Google trainer. We're trying to find and connect with all the other trainers across the state. So did you just get it, or what's your history with Google?
I don't know if this is my first time in GEG Alaska thing, but this is my first time, and I'm a para at DC Middle School in Juneau, Alaska, and I just want to find ways I can help my students and other staff around me. I had a stroke when I was 11 months, and so I'm a visualize and hands-on experience, and that way I have